Hello everyone and welcome to our new episode of the Janitza International Podcast. It's nice to have you with us today, and today we will talk about the new trends and news in the different markets over the world. Our experts, Tobias, Harry and Michael, will give us some insights about their experiences, but also how the companies will deal with the new upcoming trends. I wish you an interesting and exciting episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our international podcast. The topic for today is energy management in global market trends and the news we're having. Today, I would like to very welcome two of my colleagues, Mr. Harry Balla from India, Janitza, India, and Mr. Michael Da Costa from Australia. Both of them are our country managers, and we have today the pleasure to talk about the open trends and the market views in their countries. In that case, I would like to ask you in the first round, how long you already work in the metering business, Michael?
Oh, well, probably about 17 years now.
Wow.
With the Janitza product, 5 years, building solutions, yes.
Myself, for the last 30 years, I'm in the same field of metering. And with Janitza, for the last 7 years, I'm with Janitza, right, working in Middle East and now in India.
Very good. So we see we have today some quite good competences and long-term users and experiences. Yeah? That brings us already to the first question. What market trends do you see in your respective countries?
It's a good question. We can always talk about energy management, but if you look at the snapshot of just the last 5 years, one thing is saving energy, and it's great. Everyone knows kilowatts, get it down, let's save energy. But when you start talking about smart cities, smart buildings, sustainability, really your carbon footprint, then we're talking about a trend that could be exponential over the next few years again. So I would say that's probably the main focus today in Australia.
Right. Yeah. Harry?
In India, India is racing towards carbon neutrality somewhere around 2070. That's the target.
Oh.
A lot of industries are going towards carbon neutrality. They wanted to reduce their carbon footprints. Further, they also wanted to reduce their energy cost thereby, because the cost of energy is also increasing day by day.
Right.
So there is a lot of potential and opportunities exist in the field of energy management and energy savings.
Yeah. I see. Okay. How do you see, respected with that, the client awareness of energy monitoring, or as well maybe management, prospectively in Australia, Michael?
It's really depending how you talk about awareness. It's probably the best way. I would love to say everybody's aware, but then everyone would have an energy meter, right?
Correct.
So it's crazy to think today that people aren't aware. And if we aren't aware, then okay, how do we change this mentality? But if I say, look at the snapshot of an awareness, and when I spoke about growth a second ago, then we look at energy savings, but I have to tie into that asset management. Because when COVID hit, we all said, how do we make these assets sustainable? And we couldn't get to them, right? So how do we keep it running longer, right? So one was saving energies, but then it's also asset management. So I would say that awareness is really growing.
Ari, in your place where probably...
Everywhere customer, whatever they are buying as energy, they wanted to completely use it. So there is a lot of data required by the customer. And when the data is tagged, then it becomes an information for them.
Right.
When the information is properly utilized with their existing situations and environment, then it becomes a knowledge for them. So the data, energy data given simply is not only a small information, then it gets into a knowledge. And then if that knowledge is imparted, then it becomes a wisdom for them as well.
I see.
So
Yeah.
Quite a lot of seriousness is given by the customers and consumers to have their energy managed properly. So that's what happens for them.
All right.
It's interesting you say that, because there's an application we did a little while ago where originally it was just a warehouse. I thought, clients doing some metering for a warehouse.
Yeah.
Until I found out the network operator is saying, hang on, with the equipment you're putting in this warehouse, so it's a smart logistics warehouse, robots now, conveyor belts, controlling HVAC. So you can imagine it went from an energy conversation, but you just touched on it a second ago, because then the utility said, well, how do I stop you from creating noise harmonics on my network? So we had to change it. It became a team within a team. The energy team said, yes, we need to measure kilowatts and give us all that data. But then there was a power quality team and said, oh, hang on, this is what's going to happen if we create this noise on the network. So then we created a Janitza solution and put a smart energy meter. We call it power quality, right? So we put a power quality meter in, which then led downstream to other switchboards, putting different power quality meters in. We saved energy, but the underlying fact was when the voltage was interrupted with these machines running up and down, the conveyor belts would overshoot. Now, can you imagine these robots all running around, yet you box it up and you go to put it on a truck and it overshoots.
Right.
So it was interesting.
We have a very similar experience with our one of our customer. They had a problem of a textile machinery suddenly stopping due to some electrical interruptions. Nevertheless, they were not able to find out what exactly is happening in their system. So when they came to us, and then we gave up with a solution to monitor first what exactly is happening. So everywhere monitoring starts first.
Right.
And when they start monitoring, then we got into an exact trouble. We had a list of issues which comes out from the network side. And then that it was reported back to the utility. And utility was able to give a solution for that problem. So, which implies that if a customer is able to tell these utilities what exactly is the problems in the quality of the power, what they get, utility will be able to give them a solution to it. That was a very interesting case study what we had.
That's very interesting.
We've never had this conversation. So that's interesting, right? You asked us about trends and we talk energy management, but it's interesting. We always finish off talking power quality.
True point.
How's that?
Power quality has close association with energy management.
True.
So if your power quality is better, you can also say manage energy better. That's the way I would put it.
That's actually how we explained one of our benefits already. So quite interesting point. Yeah. So reminds me also to one of your project you mentioned that there was also the client later on wants to integrate some renewable package to the logistics center, as far as I know.
And yes, you helped me with this. So that same company, we've now done 3, if not 4, smart logistics warehouses.
Right.
And that's right. They put a large solar system in. And again, when the power quality guys were looking at the voltage, they said, there's no way our inverters are going to synchronize with this. Originally, it didn't. So we had to then measure at a lower level from where the motors and everything, where these noises were coming from. So again, this is the energy team, but they had to look at the quality of energy, the quality of power, right? And that's how we mitigated it. So, that's how we measured it. And then they mitigated it. Sometimes we just use an isolation transformer, but then we could get the solar connected.
I see,
and so they're copying this solution now. So again, saving energy, but talking power quality.
Right. That reminds me to one of the points, let's say, how you mentioned it shortly, Harry, how we have in our daily business a political influence in some points.
See, politics provides us a direction most of the time, or the governments provides us the direction of how we have to go. So in India, we are all looking towards a clean power supply from the grid. So the CEA, Central Electricity Authority in India, has placed in regulations in various states to ensure that we will all follow, at least the high voltage consumers will follow IEEE 519 compliances or 519 standards. So in the process, there are also a lot of penalties which comes out of that if they cross beyond these limits stipulated by these standards. So it's a very interesting for the grid, because customers know how much of pollution they can throw into the grid systems. So because there is a limit for it. So there is a limit for throwing the harmonics into the grid. So set by the standards. So people are very clearly knowing, and they can mitigate the harmonics within their network safely.
Interesting. Magnus, I know Australia is a country which always is in sustainability and protection for the environment.
Yes.
Is there any modern trend standard coming there?
Oh, look, biased opinion, but I love what our government bodies do. And it's not just political. We always think political government, but our governing bodies, when we talk about Neighbours and Green Star and these initiatives, right? It's fantastic. We're looking at the built environment. And if we were to look at a building, let's say this warehouse or a commercial building, we would give it a star rating. And there's a lot of work in the background with consulting engineers and stuff, but we look at our footprint, so the net lettable area, and then we can really see how much energy we're using in a per square metre base, right?
Right.
It's interesting you mentioned IEEE 519 because that same project, again, the energy guys had to learn to use the power quality reports built in GridViz. So again, when we look at a political point of view, yes, government's one, but when you're connecting to the grid, you've got a energy operator, also political point of view.
Right.
You don't do this, or you need to mitigate on this because this is what's going to happen on our network.
Right.
So it's political from different bodies. But I have a very biased opinion. I love what the government's doing. I love just the talks in general in Australia. It's all about sustainability, right? And if we can get that footprint down, bonus for everybody.
You mentioned a regulation called Neighbours. What's some infos about that?
Yeah, it looks at the built environment. So it's a star rating. And the best way to put it, people look at a fridge or a washing machine and you see a star rating on it, right?
These A, B, C, D, E. We have in Germany, same one.
Yeah. Okay. So now let's say we're looking at an existing building that we want to make efficient.
Yeah.
It would have a star rating on it. It's based on a net lettable area, but to summarise it, if you and I were looking at a floor space for the new Janitza Australia office, right?
Right.
And on that sign, there'll be a Neighbours rating that might say 2.5 stars. But the office next door might say 5 stars. So even if someone doesn't understand energy management, sustainability, lowering your overheads, you just compare the stars. The higher the stars, the more efficient that building is. And it's not just energy. It looks at water, it looks at environmental impact. So if you and I want to talk about sustainability of our business, and we really want to promote that, right? Of course, I'm going to take the 5-star building. So
of course,
it's such a simple way of looking at things.
Good. So it brings me also to another point. How does a Janitza solution support the electrical industries in the various places? So also in yours then?
I'd assume Hari's market's the same, but we've got electrical contractors, very intelligent people, switchboard builders, very intelligent people, but they can't, it's not there for them to understand the difference between meters. Because if we just had an energy meter, brand A, and an energy meter from Janitza, it's just looking at energy. But when you look at our product, I try to explain to the board builders and contractors, today we want to measure energy. And the same example we did before, we want to measure energy. But there's a power quality component that's also affecting your energy consumption. So Janitza generally, products, the end result, we sell product, great, everyone sells something. But if we educate them and we try and work hand in hand, this is for years we've done this, work hand in hand, educating them, if they could understand the losses in current from a harmonic current, that affects energy. It even affects your transformer. So soon we'll have electric cars connected, charging stations in all buildings, right? If we want our transformer to be efficient, we need more power. We can't just keep taking it from the grid. But by metering it, energy, monitoring it as well through power quality, this is what we're talking about. This is where these smart electricians, smart switchboard builders, they step up, and together we support each other.
Interesting.
And usually in electricity, it's not one parameter. Unlike a normal flow of water or something, electricity has quite a few parameters to monitor and manage.
Correct.
When we say energy, we only talk about electrical energy, kWh, but it's not that. It's a whole gamut of parameters which needs to be monitored. Further, every location, maybe a VFD or a motor connected to it, or in the incomers, or in the transformers, or in the HV side. So we cannot use the same kind of electrical parameters, getting the same electrical parameters from all through your network.
Right.
It should be differentiated according to the location, according to the loads, and then according to the zones within your electrical network.
Right. Yeah.
So we have to have quite a lot of information depending on the locations and in the network. And then we collect all these information and then put it in and tag them accordingly so that you get a complete information of your system.
I see.
So that's how, and in that sense, we at Janitza are providing a beautiful devices which can provide a complete system for them, a monitoring section on all electrical parameters, whatever they want at whatever the location they require. So that gives us a very good overview of how the energy is consumed, and thereby we can go in for the next steps of managing it better.
All right, I had a question for both of you then. Talk next steps. What does 10 years of metering from now look like? Where do you think next year, year after, what do you think it's going to look like?
I think there will be a lot of data which is required for the people to use. There will be AIs coming into play where these data would be used. We would be able to take signatures from all these loads and then create a proper AI into it. And every place, because it's very, very difficult to have an AI immediately, because there is a consumption pattern for every loads what they have in the industries. So those patterns needs to be analyzed and signaturized, and then they will be properly presented through AIs and something. AI could be a future for energy management so that people can guide and people can be guided on how these energy managements can go. Yeah,
so absolutely. It's the same point. So on that side, I'm also looking for something in the AI will lead us to something. And even at Janitza, we also have to think about that, how we can integrate it either in the product lines or at additional services. Meanwhile, on that side. In general, I would say it's more leading that the people will look for more accurate meter classes instead of the very basic units, which is also hopefully leading to more success on our side. Why that? Because it has been shown by many of our customers who have very old or cheaper systems, and they fail after a while. They lost everything. They lost the data, they lost the transparency, and they might be not doing the same mistake again in some place. And so,
interesting. And that's a good point. We didn't even touch on that, right? Because you said 30 years of metering.
Yeah.
I'm going on 17, if not 18 years now. You think those systems that we put in 15 years ago are actually outdated today? Yet today they're still specified because people just say, oh, but that's what I've always done.
That's right.
So it's a really good point. So I might ask the same question to myself then. So if I look at then 10 years, if you look back 10 years and now look forward 10 years, the accelerated learning, AI is great, but the knowledge is because we're all putting knowledge into a database.
Yeah,
could you imagine if we can, all the reports we've analysed over the years in energy consumption, carbon neutral, obviously power quality, you and I could probably talk all day about power quality. So you think if we can put that into a knowledge base today, and that's just year one, right? In 10 years' time, could you imagine the shared knowledge we could have? It's not products, it's the shared knowledge. If we got on board, you asked me one of your questions earlier about the market and the awareness. Well, if they're aware today where 10 years could be from now, imagine they said, okay, let's commit to a Janitza solution.
Yes.
Having that data from today, how cool would it look like in 10 years' time?
Correct, yeah. It's very interesting, yeah. So on that side, very good. Let's say we learned a lot today, and let's say I thank you both for coming to our first international one.
Thank you.
And let's say, hope we will continue on many of them. We learned a few points that metering of energy or measuring of energy is not always monitoring. And there's a difference in management, energy management, so differentiate in some places. We have seen that influences can be done by political or by market trends on that side. Yeah. So it will definitely guide us for the next sessions into that.
Definitely.
So once again, I thank you both. Yeah.
Thanks for having us. This was great.
Pleasure to speak with you.
Yeah. Thank you for it.
Yeah,
thank you for inviting us. And we will do great with our Janitza devices.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Many thanks to Tobias, Harry and Michael for the exciting insights. You are welcome to visit our website at janitza.com. We look forward to seeing you again next time. Thank you for joining us.